Good morning. Welcome to Hometown Heroes. This is Rick Irving with my co host, Mary Staffeld. And today we have one of our dear friends who was one of our early Hometown Hero podcast guests, Billy Roan. And Billy, I think you were episode 38, and now we're at 145. So
Oh my, oh
it's
my.
been a while. So,
Well, I'm so happy and so excited to be here today. It's an honor to be with you and Mary. Cannot believe how excited I am to be here.
well, we're excited to have
Well,
you.
sure.
We talked since we talked last on Hometown Heroes. We've had a lot of our Vietnam veterans on with a
Hmm.
lot of stories, and you were a Marine that served in Vietnam in the '60s in the early part. So
Yes, yes. By the way, I just want to just say one thing to Rick. Every time I see you, you look more and more like Santa Claus.
so
He's getting
No,
ready to play Santa, I think.
no, that's what I was going to say. In December, when we have roll call, we ought to dress Rick up in a Santa Claus suit and let him host the whole day.
Oh, wouldn't that be special?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So
So I would love to see that.
I see Rick is muted. That probably means the planes are going over his house. And then they'll come over mine. So you'll see me mute because they kind of go over his house and then mine. And they're pretty loud these days.
By the way, I wanted to say a couple of things before we
okay,
get started here.
we'll
This
let you.
week is kind of a special week. The day is the 24th, by the way. It's Taco Tuesday, which I'll be heading to Rose's Cafe afterwards to buy me some tacos. They're like $6.59. You can't beat it. But the other thing is Friday is a really big day. And I know Mary knows what it is. It's her birthday.
That's right.
Friday is her birthday.
That's right.
And so happy birthday. It's a little early, but happy birthday, Mary.
Thank
And I
you.
heard from an anonymous source that you was going to be 32 this coming birthday.
I love it. I love it. We had the big birthday party for the roll call family. Since roll call was Friday the 20th, my husband decided that was the day to throw my birthday party. So my 65th birthday party.
Oh my! I
66.
don't believe that at all.
I know. I know all the vets at roll call always tell me, you're just a baby.
Whenever some people are turning 103,
Right.
then 66 isn't that old.
Yeah.
Well,
Or 65. 65.
yesterday, the 23rd, was kind of a sad day for me because Cliff Stump passed away 2 years ago on June 23rd, 2023. And he had his birthday, 99th birthday, on June the 13th, which was like 10 days before he passed away.
Mhm.
And I go way back with Cliff because I used to go pick him up every couple of weeks and we would go out to a restaurant and eat. And then I'd come back to his place and he'd show me all of his pictures and all the things he had collected over the years. And it was so much fun being with Cliff. Cliff was he's a hero, and he was born in Iowa, and he spent a lot of time. I know he was. Let me look here. I want to make sure I get this right. Oh, he was at D-Day on a glider, landed in the glider. He was on Market Garden and Battle of the Bulge,
Yeah.
and I know the last 2-3 years there was a guy by the name of Jerry Ben Jokum, and Jerry took him to Hawaii, took him to France for D-Day, took him to Netherlands for Market Garden, and the Netherlands do such a fantastic job with their cemeteries. I'm the administrator for a group called Veterans in Honor, and two other administrators both live in Netherlands, and they have graves American graves that they take care of. They take flowers out there every weekend. They make sure everything's nice and clean. The cemeteries they look so wonderful. I mean, it's like they take such good care. And, they have a waiting list of people wanting to take care of a grave. So they have to wait until somebody passes away and before they get that honor. So,
you talk about Cliff, and I'm going to share this story. It's going to be quick, but
okay.
One of my friends, he was an Air Force veteran. He called me and said, "Hey, I've got a friend, and her dad passed away, and can you take pictures at the National Cemetery at the graveside?" And I said, "Sure." And so I made arrangements to take pictures. His name was Achilles. I can't pronounce his last name, but he wrote that book about the best seat in the house or something, because he was a gunner in World War II. So that morning early, I got a text from this friend of mine that works at USO. And she said, "There's this lady from Austria that's coming to a funeral, and maybe you can meet her," because she dropped by the USO. Well, it was Danny.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Danny. And so in the course of Danny being over here, she met Cliff, and that changed Cliff's life, because that got him in the roll call and all these other organizations that helped him. And you see somebody like that, and you don't realize how just one phone call from my friend. I told my friend not long ago, you don't know how much you impacted one World War II veteran by making that phone call to me that day. And just to see all the things he got to do, he would never gone to Hawaii or back to Europe if he hadn't met Danny through that funeral. So,
yeah, I know about Danny. She, matter of fact, she stayed at my house for a couple of days, and wonderful lady. And we used to communicate on Messenger, and so.
And she comes over here about every 8 or 9 months, it seems like. So
yeah, she's been pretty. She's been here at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 times maybe.
Yeah, at least that.
Yeah.
Well, you grew up in Rowlett in Dallas area, didn't you?
Yes, I actually went to W.W. Samuel High School, which is in Pleasant Grove area, and graduated in 1964. And then August 13th of 1964, I joined the Marine Corps with a buddy of mine, Buddy Level. And but my great grandfather, Jackson Woodland Roan, moved from Alabama with his family in 1895. And so his name was Jackson Woodland Roan. And they were farmers. They had 12 children. His first male child was Daniel Greenberry Roan, which is my grandfather. So my great-grandfather was Jackson Woodland, and my grandfather is Daniel Greenberry. Some unusual names, but I don't know how they got them, but they did. So, but we have a major artery here in the area that separates Garland, Texas, and Rowlett, and it's named Roan Road, which was named after my great-grandfather Jackson. Plus, we also have some other side streets named after my family. So we moved here in 1895. Plus, my grandfather, he also had 12 children, and big families back then, big families. And he was also a farmer, but he lived in Van, Texas. He didn't live, although he did come to Rowlett a good many times, but he lived in Van, Texas, which is pretty east of here.
It was a long trip to go from Van to Rowlett back then.
Oh yeah, I mean, Rowlett back in the 50s and early 60s, it was just cornfields and cotton fields. I mean, you couldn't even see houses. I mean, it was just fields and cotton fields, cornfields, you know, and the roads were just 2-lane narrow roads. And my uncle, his name was Doc. We would go see him at his place in Rowlett, which is now covered by Lake Ray Hubbard. So his house is no longer there, so it was really interesting to drive out to Rowlett back in those days, because Rowlett now is a big thriving community, but back then it was not thriving.
And it would take a while because we didn't have all the freeways and everything.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up on the west side of Fort Worth, and just to go up to Grapevine or North Richland Hills, that was a long trip. You know, you'd have to want to go there, or to go to Dallas, you know, go Lancaster all the way to Dallas. So.
You're exactly correct, because when we drove to Rowlett, boy, it seemed like it took us forever to get there. And it was so far away. And it was just, you know, my uncle Doc and his wife's name was Pearl. And they had an outhouse, which was strange to me. Never had experienced an outhouse before. But back in those days, that wasn't nothing unusual whatsoever. So
I had some relatives that lived at Rendon, and we go out there, and you have to go to the outhouse. And being a 5 or 6 year old boy, that was a strange deal.
Oh yeah. It definitely was. So, by the way, I want to just say one other date.
Okay.
And that's tomorrow, by the way, June 25th, and 59 years ago, on June 25th, 1966, my close friend, my squad leader, David Rayner, was shot through the chest and died instantly. And he died in my arms that day. And he was just standing right next to me. And the person to my right, he got shot also, but he lived. And it was a really, I love David, and he was a big man. So it was my responsibility to get David back to the main lines. And so I had to pick him up and carry him on my shoulders. And they taught you this in boot camp, how to do it and so forth. And for any second there, I expected to be shot in the back. I was kind of scared, but he was heavy, and I was huffing and puffing and huffing and puffing, trying to get back to our platoon, and finally made it after, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, and got back, and it was a big battle. We lost in total 29 other Marines. And in my company back then was hotel company. And there were 3 other Marines in my company, hotel company. And I do want to remember them: Gunnery Sergeant Robert Eagleston, Lance Corporal Miller Borg, and PFC Bruno Martin. They died that same day as David did. And we had another company, golf company. We lost 5 more Marines that day. And it was a big battle. It was a battlefield, and we had to call the Air Force in. Marines, flames, they dropped napalm, and the napalm was so close to us, you could just feel the heat from it. And that same day, we had 2 guys who won the Silver Star for that operation. And so I'll always remember that day. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget David. And he was somebody special to me. You know, we lost 58 other thousand Marines in Vietnam. Wow. And I hope that we can all remember them. They're young men who never had a chance to be fathers, never had a chance to have children, never had a chance to get married, never had a chance to grow old. So I always want us to remember those brave young men, Air Force, Coast Guard, Navy, Army, and Marines, and for the job they did, serving their country in a time of need.
And that was early on in Vietnam. So
yes, 66. Well, it was early 60. It was June 66 that David got shot, but we actually did 2 amphibious landings in September, where you climb over the side of the ship, go down the net, like you see in Private Ryan, and you take a landing craft and go up, and the front end lands, goes down, and you run out. Although, as I mentioned to Rick, we walked out because there was no enemy out there. I mean, we didn't know that for sure, but we didn't have any contact either for the first one or the second one. But it was good training, and it gave me an opportunity to see what it feels like to climb over the side of a ship and put your feet on a boat that's going up and down like this. And so it was something else.
Good experience.
I had a phone back then, cell phone. Could have taken some pictures. But
could have taken a selfie.
Oh yeah.
But your training started at MCRD San Diego.
Exactly. Back then, it lasted 13 months. 13 days. It did
seem like 13 months, didn't it?
It was horrible. Like I said, it seemed like you was in penitentiary. You had no freedom whatsoever. Everything was your platoons. Your gunnery. Your drill sergeants. They were drill sergeants, and you only did what they told you to do, and when they told you to do it. So
that was before they were politically correct, like they are now.
Oh so. Yeah. Believe me, it wasn't politically correct back then. Yeah, they did some things that probably could land people in prison now, but.
And you got to march and drill on Shepherd Parade Deck at MCRD. The same parade deck that Don Graves trained on and my dad trained on in World War II. That's such a historic place. So many.
Oh, yeah. It hasn't changed at all. And
think about the thousands and thousands of Marines that have gone through there, and how many of them lost their life in war.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But you spent some time training before you ever got to Vietnam.
Immediately after boot camp, you go to what they call kind of like a second boot camp, which lasts 4 weeks, but it's at Camp Pendleton. And that's where you crawl underneath barbed wire, and they got a machine gun, live bullets are being fired, and you have to make sure you don't lift your head up. You have to stay close to the ground. So it was kind of scary. Plus, we also did a lot of back then we used an M1. And so for that 4 weeks we had an M1. Once we got back to Camp Pendleton, we was issued M14s, and so it had an M14 the whole time I was in the Marine Corps, and so.
But you didn't see an M16 while you were in Vietnam.
Never saw one. Never even heard about them, to be honest with you, and so.
So you got to experience some ship time going to Vietnam.
Yes, the USS Montrose. We went to San Diego, and the whole battalion boarded the USS Montrose, and there was one other ship too, which I don't remember the name. And we set sail across the Pacific, and it probably, lasted about 2 weeks, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. It took us a long time anyway. And eventually we docked in Okinawa and only stayed in Okinawa for a couple of days, a couple of nights. And then.
What'd you do in Okinawa while you were there?
I'm not going to tell you.
That's a story for a different show, I think.
Yes. Uh, we had fun. So, but then we went to the Philippines and on the USS Montrose and docked in Subic Bay, and they had a little town there called Olongapo. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of it for a second. Olongapo, Philippines, and it's like just a liberty town. It was like one bar after another bar. I mean, it was like they had a bar for every state. They had the New York bar, they had the Texas bar, they had the Iowa bar, and each bar had a band, a Filipino band. They were really good. And so they sung all the rock and roll songs that were popular back in the States then. And so we were there for 3 months. While we were there, we also did a lot of jungle training out in the jungle, and we had Filipino soldiers that taught us how to live and how to survive in a jungle atmosphere. And so it was really good training, learned a lot of stuff. And and then eventually in December of 1965, we left the Philippines for an engagement, a search and destroy operation called Harvest Moon. And it was a big one. It lasted 12 days.
That was kind of your first experience,
really,
with seeing people dead.
Yes. It's about I saw my first Marine killed. His name was Dennis Manning, Lance Corporal Dennis Manning, and saw my first North Vietnamese Viet Cong kills. A lot of bodies. Matter of fact, we in one valley with B-52s bombed the valley. And we went in about a day and a half later, and it was gigantic holes in the earth. And a lot of people just died from, you'd see them, they had blood coming out of their mouth and ears and eyes, and because of concussion from the B-52 bombs. And they left humongous holes in the earth there. So that we saw a lot of dead bodies there. And we got ambushed about 3 or 4 times. The one thing I remember the most, though, was that it rained for the whole 12 days. And
it was a monsoon, wasn't it?
Vietnam being cold, but it was cold at night. That's it right there. That's by Sergeant McDonald, the Sergeant McDonald, and that's me. And you can see the background. It was jungle, and we walked. Because it was overcast, we didn't see any helicopters there whatsoever. So we had to walk from one destination to another destination, and we would walk all day long. And it was muddy, and we did not have our jungle boots yet. We had our original boots that we had back in the States. Eventually, we did get jungle boots, which would help you in a muddy situation. But so we were slipping and sliding the whole time on these walks. All day walks and so forth. So, but we got ambushed about 3 or 4 times, and I saw a lot of dead Vietnamese bodies, North Vietnamese bodies, and they had full gear, these not helmets like we had, but they were helmets. And so, but this was the very last day. This is just before the helicopters did pick us up and take us back to. So this is after 12 days. Of that operation, a search and destroy operation.
And with the monsoon season,
definitely monsoon season, and it rained every single day, and hard rain. So
you didn't have a lot of air support. The helicopters couldn't get in.
No air support. I never saw a plane the whole operation.
Mm-hmm. And how many Viet Cong were killed in that battle? Do you know?
I think I used to know. I want to say I'm probably going to get this incorrect, but I want to say it's like between 400 and 500. But
okay, and we lost some Marines there.
Oh yes, we lost a good many Marines, and we lost a lot of South Vietnamese Marines too. So every operation we always had South Vietnamese. Although we normally didn't see them, but they were out there somewhere. And they would always have more casualties than we did.
How come?
I don't know. I think a lot of times they went on their own search and destroy operations until they got in trouble, and then they would call in the Marines to help them out. And so they had the initial contact with the enemy, and so it seems like they just lost more people than we did.
So after Harvest Moon, then you started going out on the search and destroy missions. Oh, I mean, that was kind of your primary job then?
Right. After Harvest Moon, we did go back to the USS Montrose, and it landed in Wei. And from Wei, we took Crux to Fubai, where I was stationed for 6-7 months in Fubai, and it's about 40 miles from the city of Wei. The city of Wei is really a neat city. It was the actual capital at the time, and they had a big university there, and it was really a nice city. Although in 1968, the Battle of Wei took place, and it almost destroyed the whole town. We lost hundreds of Marines in that town, in the city of Wei.
That was during the Tet Offensive, wasn't it?
Exactly. It was during the Tet Offensive, and I was already back in the States by then, so didn't have to worry about it. But I was actually in 68, I was in Charleston, North Carolina.
Yeah, we had one of our new roll call members that was in Wei. He just got there like 2 days before and didn't know his way around or anything. And that's when Tet happened. And out of the 9 people he was with, he was the only one to escape without getting killed or taking capture. So the ones that got captured were POWs the rest of the war.
That was those are big time battles, and lost a lot of people, and it was all across Vietnam. I mean, they hit Saigon, they hit Wei, other bases, all up and down South Vietnam, and so a lot of people were involved.
Yeah, your experience in Vietnam, you were there 13 months and 22 days, and you slept outside most of the time, didn't you?
Oh, yes. Never slept in a bed whatsoever. Learned to sleep in foxholes, learned to sleep on the ground, wherever you could find some place to curl up and sleep. But never slept a full night, because no matter where you were at, you had to have somebody on guard. And so if you were in a foxhole, you had a buddy with you. And so you would be awake for 4 hours and watching stuff. And then you would sleep. Then you'd wake your buddy up, and he would get up in the middle of the night and he'd do the same thing. So, but never slept all night, never slept on a bunk, never slept on a bed. So, and plus we had sea rations back then. I mean, I don't think I ever had a hot meal, and I don't remember ever having a hot meal anywhere. And so you learn to like sea. Well, I don't think you ever learned those. You really didn't like them, but you had to. That was all you had. That's all you had.
Whenever you go out on those search and destroy missions, about how long would you be gone typically?
Well, it all depends on the search and destroy operation, exactly how much contact you had. I mean, there were some search and destroy operations that we had actually no physical contact with the enemy whatsoever. Although you were looking for it, that was the reason for it. You were searching for it, and hopefully you was going to be able to destroy the enemy. But yeah, there were some operations that we got hit fairly bad. Although I think Operation J and Operation Harvest Moon were the two that I was involved with that got hit the hardest.
And Operation J was whenever you lost your friend.
Exactly. That was June 25th and June 26th, 1966, and I know there were like 400, I think there were like 400 enemies that were killed. These were North Vietnamese troops, and I know the Vietnamese Marines, they lost like 279, and I think we lost like 29 in all.
Yeah.
29 Marines.
Whenever you go out on the search and destroy, would you go out in helicopters usually,
Yes.
or would you? Okay.
Almost always helicopters.
So they'd drop you off, but you did jungle warfare, but then you were in the mountains a lot of time too. So you did a lot of walking in Vietnam.
Yeah, well, these mountains, they would have a name like 479, 672. It was actually the height of the mountain there. So that's how it got its name. And so there were certain mountains that the Marines had lookouts. They would take a whole company there and just on top of the mountain. And you would usually do it for about 3 weeks. And then you would have somebody replace you after about 3 weeks. And you'd go back to Phu Bai.
So would you have interaction with the Army too? Would there be some Army guys out there sometime, or?
No, I never saw a soldier from the Army the whole 13 months. And when I went on R&R, that was the only time I went to Singapore, and that was probably the only time that I saw some soldiers. We flew out of Saigon to Singapore, and we was on R&R for like 7 days. This is probably after I'd been in Vietnam for like 6 or 7 months. And so I was very happy to go on R&R, and it was very nice, very nice.
You get some rest, or did you?
No rest.
How come, Billy?
I'm not going to tell you.
Rick, again, that's for a different show than Hometown Hero.
Oh, yes.
But you did get some hot meals while you were in Singapore.
Oh, yes. We ate very good, very good. And I did meet a nice lady. She was a Chinese lady, and her father was a banker there in Singapore. And we communicated for 3 or 4 months after I got back to Vietnam. And eventually we stopped communicating, but she was a real nice lady, spoke English, and she was Chinese.
In your unit, you had the battalion, and then it broke on down to a squad. So
yeah, we had battalions. Then you had companies. You'd break the battalion down into companies, and then you'd break that companies down into squads. And you'd break squads down into fire teams. And so for the first 6 months over there, I didn't carry an M14. I carried an M79 grenade launcher. So if you carried a grenade launcher, you also carried a 45. So I had a 45, there it is right there, grenade launcher. And I carried that for the first 6 months I was over there. And it got damaged. And so I had to go with an M14, and
well, how much would you carry all the ammunition?
Oh yeah,
your grenade launcher. So that was probably pretty heavy. What?
Yeah, well, the grenades, they were fairly small, and I mean, I always carried grenades on we had them pinned to your shirt, so you always had grenades. But grenade launcher though, they had a little pouch, and you would carry the little pouch. Well, you'd probably have about 20 of them at one time. And and we carried smoke grenades, hand grenades, and Willie Peter grenades.
So you didn't have a rifle. Would you use your 45 too?
Well, if you had to, I mean, I would use my M79, and I'd only use my 45 if I had to. Because M45 was not the most accurate weapon in the world. So,
and you don't want them that close to you.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you want to get them when they're a little further away.
Yes. So
it looks like you had your jungle boots here. Is that jungle boots, or is that? It's kind of hard to see, but
yeah. I've noticed if you go back to that one picture, you notice I have my boots bloused. And blouse is when you have your pants up around at the top of your boots, And I'm pretty sure, though, these are my original boots. These are probably not the jungle boots yet. And on so many operations, as we were walking through the jungles and walking through rice paddies and just walking, once you'd stop, the first thing you did is you'd go down, sit down, and pull your pants legs up to see how many leeches you had on your legs.
Oh my.
Get those off.
Yes, because basically the only way you didn't want to pull them off because you'd leave their heads. And anyway, you would want to, you'd take a cigarette and you'd burn them off, and they would let go immediately once you touched it with a cigarette. And so, I mean, the whole time you was always fighting leeches, you know, because back at base wasn't an issue back then. But if you was out in the field in rice paddies, a lot of rice paddies, jungle, it was wet all over there. So, just a wet culture. And so the leeches were everywhere.
And this picture that we have is kind of a diversion from the jungle and the war, but you're still on duty because you're guarding somebody.
This is in Fubai. And of course, we have the beautiful Anne Margaret there. And if you look over to the right, you see a red arrow. And of course, that's me. This picture was taken by Stars and Stripes. And that was a big newspaper we had over there. And they took all the major pictures and stuff. And so people kid me all the time. They wonder why I have my head turned the other way when Anne Margaret's walking up there. But then I was on security. I tell people I was on security. I was supposed to protect her, you know. I mean, that was probably like a 4-hour job. Johnny Rivers, by the way, was also with Anne Margaret. And so I had 4 hours to get a good view of Anne Margaret. So,
and there were a lot of those actors and performers that came over during Vietnam. You know, Bob Hope would bring people, and just like Johnny Rivers coming, you know, he was a hot guy then. I mean,
Well, you know, I did see Bob Hope.
Did you really?
But I didn't see him in Vietnam. I saw him on a small little island off the coast of Puerto Rico called Viegas. And there's, after I left Vietnam, I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Marine Corps 2nd Division. And, you know, everybody's been applying for, you know, if you was at Camp Lejeune for a certain period of time, you can sign up to maybe, but I haven't, because they have a list of things that you have to have. So I'd go down this list and this list, and this and this. None of those were I was affected by any of them. So I never signed up for it. But anyway, saw Bob Hope in Viegas, and the reason I saw him in Viegas was when you go to Camp Lejeune, you spend 6 months either in the Mediterranean, or you spend 6 months in the Caribbean on board ships. And so we had the Caribbean cruise. And so this cruise would last 6 months, and they were naval ships, carried helicopters. And so you would float around the Caribbean, you know, in case something broke out in South America, Central America, any place in the Caribbean, you would have a whole battalion of Marines that could respond in just a matter of hours. So, but it was good because we stopped at almost every single island that's possible to stop at in the Caribbean. So we had a lot of good liberty there. We stopped in Panama and took this old timey train that went from one side of the Panama to the other side of Panama and the Panama Canal there. And so that was kind of neat to do that. It was like one of these old trains you'd see in a cowboy movie. And but anyway, it was good liberty. And anyway, Viegas is a little small island that the Marines had control of back then. And so we also did some training there. And so Bob Hope, and I can't remember there was another actor. But anyway, Bob Hope put on a show there, and it was was really nice, really neat. So I had a chance to meet Bob. Didn't meet him, but I did see him. So,
and that was nice to come and have that duty after spending so much time in the war, wasn't it?
yes, yes. No, like I say, 13 months and 22 days in the war. So it was nice to come back and go to Camp Lejeune and kind of, we still did a lot of training though. Still did a lot of training. And my MOS was 0311. And 0311, basically, we call ourselves grunts, but at 0311 officially is just a rifleman. And be honest with you, most Marines are 0311. That's the reason they joined. So if you had a different MOS, you were kind of lucky. Although I consider myself lucky being a rifleman. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did do. So, and
And how long were you in total in the Marine Corps?
well, I was in the Marine Corps 6 years. Went in 1964 and got out in August of 1970. And so my last duty station was at Marine Barracks, Charleston, North Carolina. I was there for about a year. And it's a Marine Barracks, but there was like only 100 Marines there. It was a big naval base. And so there were probably 20,000 sailors there. And it was our duty as Marines to man the gates. Well, there were 6 gates there. And so we had white hats and white gloves and white belts and spit shine shoes. And so we had the gates, and we had to salute all the officers as they came through the gates, make sure that we did a good job with that and make sure that only the right people were able to get on the base and keep out the people that you didn't want to be on the base, which was a full-time job. The only bad thing was if you had a gate way back in the back, which nobody came through, and you was up 6 hours at night, it was boring, really boring. So if you on a gate that a lot of people came through, you stayed busy. You stayed busy the whole time. So,
well, did you guard the brig sometime?
No. We had about 50 of them were responsible for the brig, and we were responsible for the gates. So, the other thing we did, and we're all the funerals within probably 100 miles. We did the 21 gun salute. Did all the funerals, and so probably, I don't know, we must have went to, 40 or 50 of them.
And after you got out, you went back home to Dallas?
Went back home to Pleasant Grove, and eventually got married.
Had a couple, you've got several children.
I got a daughter named Tanya Elaine Johnson, and my son is Jonathan Howard Roan. Lives in Paris currently. Although
Paris, Texas, or
Paris, Texas.
Okay.
They have this beautiful home there, but his wife is now working in Louisiana. So Johnny just got a new job, and so they're looking for a home closer to Louisiana. They're going to sell the house we're in right now, which they have spent a lot of money fixing up, and it's really a beautiful house. So they're real proud of it. And Tanya, she lives in Forney, Texas, with her husband Mike and their son Trevor Johnson. Trevor Johnson, believe it or not, looks just like me when I was 22, 23 years old.
Wow.
And so people all the time thought, you look just like him, So I have superimposed some of my Marine Corps pictures and put his head there. And my picture there, and you look at it, it's hard to tell the difference. And so he's Trevor's really a good boy. He's 25 now and not married. Does have a girl. He does live with a girlfriend. So and they're close. Him and his girlfriend kind of are partiers right now. So young life. We're young.
Yeah, they're still enjoying life.
Still enjoying life. Yes, yes, yes.
After you got out of the Marine Corps, what kind of work did you do?
Well, my first job, my dad got it for me. He worked at LTV. And I'm sure you're familiar with LTV.
Lean Timco Vault.
Yes, Lean Timco.
Bobby Lean.
Place in Grand Prairie. And when I worked there, we were building a plane. It was the same plane. It was just one was for the Navy and one was for the Air Force. It was called a Corsair, and A7 Corsair. And we built, I don't know, a couple thousand of them. So the final line is where I worked on, and it was my responsibility to make sure they had all the parts and all the correct parts. And if they couldn't find it, it was my job to go search them down and find them and get them back. Because we didn't want to hold the line up. These planes were going out left and right. So we worked 24/7. I mean, I worked 7 days a week, overtime, and I was making all kinds of good money. My wife was so happy. She was buying a lot of stuff. We bought furniture. And anyway, but the bad part was anytime you work at a place like that, eventually you're going to finish the job. And there were probably, I don't know, thousands and thousands and thousands of people that worked there. And so I didn't have a lot of seniority. I had about 3 years of seniority. So when it came time for layoffs, I was one of the first ones to go. And so
first one out, last one back.
Yeah. They eventually did call me back, but then I already had another job. And so I turned them down because I'm sure if I came back, eventually I'd be laid off again. So,
right.
So anyway,
yeah, the nature of the beast.
Yes.
Yep.
But you do a lot of art now, don't you?
Yes, that's my hobby. I love doing it. I have a library probably of a couple thousand posters that I've built over the years. And each morning I get up and, of course, I'm the administrator for Veterans in Honor. And also there's another one called Vietnam, the best of the hold on, I got it written down here. Mm-hmm. Oh, the best of the baby boomers. I can never remember that for some reason.
Best of the baby boomers?
1,000. So I'm out there every day. I'm doing stuff for them. I'm doing stuff for where I live at, and then I'm doing stuff for Veterans in Honor, and then other people ask me to do stuff. And so I enjoy it. I get up early. This morning I got up at 3 o'clock and started working. And so I wanted to make sure I was ready for you.
Aw. Yeah, I love looking at your stuff. You're so creative. I'm like, man, how does he do that?
Well, I was a consultant for like 20 years, and I traveled constantly. I lived in hotels, had over almost 4 million miles of air miles, and flew every single week. And so I learned a lot of this stuff doing my consultant work. So when it came time, I got out, I was looking for something to do. And so I got involved with doing this digital artwork, and I got good at it. And so I do have the correct applications to do what I need to do, and that helps out. And but still, I try to use my imagination, and or if I see something I like, I may like it, but I'll do my own inspiration for it. And so I do a lot of work. I'm on Pinterest. You guys know what Pinterest is?
Yeah.
I do a lot. I got a lot of stuff out there. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, Pinterest is kind of a ladies deal because I'm on it and I've got like 18,000 women that follow me because I started out doing kayak fishing and stuff and never got anything at all, no followers or anything. So I started doing women's fashions, and then I've got probably 300 women that pin to one of my boards, so.
Oh yeah, you do that. Yeah, you can stay. Also, I do a lot of videos, and on Facebook. And Facebook, they're actually called Reels.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of those. And so currently, I just checked the other day, I got 73,000 followers on Facebook. And I get these from the videos. And so
that's a lot of followers.
That is.
Yeah. I was surprised how fast I got them. I mean, it seemed like it's almost overnight.
What kind of videos are you making?
Oh, all kinds of them.
Okay.
And they're G-rated, by the way. I don't have any. They're all G-rated, all nice. I put them out on Facebook. I get all kinds of compliments about them and stuff. So, a lot of them, not as much nowadays because it's more difficult. But I do a lot of veteran stuff on Reels. And so I got a lot of followers following those particular Reels. And,
do you put any of those videos on YouTube? You have a YouTube channel?
I haven't. I did put some out there years ago. But I don't spend much time on YouTube any longer. Everything else keeps me busy. I am on X a lot. And that's Twitter.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and that's kind of fascinating. Then TikTok. I can spend hours on TikTok.
Very the young kids. I don't even know TikTok.
I'm with you, Billy. I spend a lot of time. There's so much information out there on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I can spend hours. I mean, look at each video they have on TikTok. It's just a lot of fun, and it's entertaining. So entertaining, and so it makes me laugh every time I go out there. I laugh and laugh and laugh, and so it's so interesting. So
you're gonna be coming back to roll call.
Yes. I am so excited about coming back. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to getting my big hug from beautiful Mary. I'm sorry, my mind went blank for a second. And so and seeing Rick with his taking up. I'm going to walk up and make sure you get a picture of me though.
I will.
Got a bunch of pictures of you over the years, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Rick's been very good. I mean, he's probably the best photographer in the state of Texas. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. The best photographer in the state of Texas. And I don't see how you do it, because it seemed like for a while there, every single night you were out doing something. And so.
Yeah, he's been in high demand.
I would think so, yeah.
For sure. He's taken some of the photos that, you just look back at, and you were talking about Cliff when we started the show. And, one of my favorites is when Cliff and
Carmen Giese,
he captured that picture of those two when they came together, and it was just so amazing to watch those two connect, because they had been in so many of the same places. 182nd Airborne, 101st Airborne, and they sat down and met each other, and that was just a magical picture. When I look at that, it was.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures, same ones that you're talking about, and so a lot of people we've lost over the last few years.
We have
amazing men, heroes, all of them, and so. Well, we still have left.
It was back in December, I think, is when we lost Bill McIntyre and the other veteran that was 104 years old.
Kelly. Yep. Bill Kelly. It was either late November, early December. We lost each of them. Bill Kelly was 104 in September, and Bill McIntyre 104 in July. So they both saw their 104th birthday, and now we just had Vern, who celebrated Vern Mitchell just celebrated his 104th birthday on May 5th. So as far as I know, he's still with us. He was at the luncheon on Friday, so I got to see him then.
Well, we still have Don.
I swear we'll always have Don.
Yeah, Don. I mean, he's amazing. Such an amazing person. I mean, he can tell so many stories. He's so fun to be with. So fun to listen to. I love listening to him sing songs that he sings. God Bless America, and all kinds of songs. Yeah. And he goes to the baseball games. He's always going someplace. How does he do that at his age? You know,
crazy.
He's got a packed calendar for sure.
He's going to New Orleans on Thursday.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, going for the weekend. Yep, he'll be there with the Air Power Council.
Well, I see pictures all the time on Facebook where somebody he's at some restaurant someplace with one of the roll call members eating lunch, eating dinner, and sucking down a beer, you know. So
yeah, that's Don.
Oh yes.
We just hope we can have that much energy when we're 100 years old, Billy.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Hey, pleasure's all mine.
It's great to see you again because we haven't seen you in a while at roll call, but you were there early whenever we started our Hometown Heroes podcast, and I was looking back and I thought, I need to get Billy back on. We need to listen to some more of those stories. So,
well, hopefully you can get me back on in another couple of years, maybe around 2000, episode 2000.
Yeah, I hope so. We're going to be hitting 150.
We don't know to get there, but we'll keep trying.
I think this is episode 145. So
okay, well maybe not 2000.
Yeah,
maybe 147 or something.
Would be really old by then. But thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
To our country, and just if you can read those names again for those your fellow Marines that died. I think you had their names written down.
Yeah, I got them right here.
That's something Billy does that so many people don't. Is if you follow Billy on Facebook, you always remember and you have a little story about each of these veterans. Every single time I look, you have at least one, if not more, and so that we always remember them.
Yes. I try to do as many as I can, and makes me. We need to remember all of them. They went through so much, and so we have Korean veterans, or the next group of veterans. We have just a handful of World War II left. And then Korean veterans, and we're losing the Vietnam veterans too, at a fast rate.
Very
Agent Orange is taking so many of them.
Yeah.
George Thomas. He's in charge of the other group that I'm responsible for, and he has Agent Orange, and he's in pretty bad shape. But anyway, those other three men from a hotel company were Gunnery Sergeant Robert Eagleston, Lance Corporal Miller Borg, and PFC Bruno Martin. And then there were 5 others from Golf Company, but those 3 that I just read are from Hotel Company, which is the company I was in.
And that was 59 years ago?
59 years ago.
So
it's been so long.
We'll be thinking about you tomorrow too, as you reflect back on that day. But thank you, Billy. for
Happy birthday, Mary.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to quit celebrating birthdays.
No.
Yeah,
No.
don't want to get any older. If I just quit celebrating, then I just won't get any older, right?
Probably so. Probably so.
Oh yeah. It hadn't worked for Don, so I guess it won't. Though Don said this is it. He isn't celebrating anymore.
There's some. You did that poster, didn't you?
Yes, I did. That's mine. That's my work. And 2 of those are boot camp pictures.
Are they really?
Yes. The one in the blues. We were not issued blues back in 64. Nowadays they do get issued blues, but back then the back of that blues uniform is cut out.
Just like a shroud.
Yes, and so all you do is you stick your arms in, and you put a hat on, and they take your picture. So, and I don't have any. Well, I had pants on, but I didn't have the blues, the regular pants.
Right.
So,
Wow.
and then the other picture was actually that picture was taken after I came home after boot camp. And then, of course, the one in the middle is like, that's me. Although it's not really that. I look a lot better there than I do in person.
Oh, stop it.
You look good, Billy.
Thank you there.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Billy. And we will see you at roll call in August. And I'm going to make sure that we check the reservations so you have a place, because the reservations go quick.
Oh, yes. By the way, July's coming up. Are you going to have roll call in July?
We don't do one in July, but we will.
Normally, yes.
Yeah, we're going to have Beers and Betties on July 19th, though, out there in their neck of the woods where Don lives. So we'll have Beers and Betties.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and it's the 3rd year. And it's always a lot of fun. The Battle and Betties put it on. It's a fundraiser for roll call, and it's always lots of fun. They make it a ton of fun. People dancing, having fun.
So is Christella going to be there?
I don't know if she will or not, but I know all the Battle and Betties will. We always like to invite Christella because she's always the life of any party.
Oh, she's talking about Rick being busy. Christella is.
She's crazy busy.
She is.
Yes.
I do some clay shoots and golf tournaments that she goes to. And so she usually is my driver on the golf course or the clay shoot. So I was asking her one day, because she might go to 3 or 4 different functions in one day, and she's got a different outfit for every function. I said, how do you do that?
Her closet she has to have a big closet.
She must have a big closet. But she said she does have some certain places that she shops, so they know the kind of clothes that she's looking for. So I guess they call her and say, hey, we've got your size. But what a remarkable person.
She was born in Mexico City.
Yeah.
She speaks Spanish, which I didn't know for a long time. So
amazing young woman. Well, when we're talking about things coming up in August, at our August meeting, we're going to have the 20 guns in 20 minutes. It's a raffle. And once the ticket's pulled, it goes back in with other tickets. Mm-hmm. So the last time we did that, we had 3 or 4, maybe 5 people that won more than one weapon.
Man.
So, but there's a you go to that scan that QR code, and you can go right to the website to get your ticket. And then they've got a special through July the 4th. That if you bring somebody in and they say, hey, Billy Roan sent me here, well, then you get a ticket for the drawing. So
great. That's great.
And then we have the Battling Betties. They're coming up in July. And then the Patriot Roundup is July 31st. That's with the Air Power Foundation. And then Air Power Foundation is going to have the Sky Ball on October the 25th at Globe Life Field. So a lot of things coming up.
Oh, so much stuff going on. I wish I lived in Fort Worth.
I wish you did too. We'd see you more often.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I lived in Fort Worth, I would be attending every single thing you got.
Well,
And, so.
Yep, lots of fun. Got to get people out of the house.
we have a sponsor veteran for $20. Just a monthly donation. It helps feed a veteran, and then money goes toward the other activities that we do for the veterans. So just a lot of stuff coming up.
Yes.
And our last roll call meeting, just last week, we had Tim Lee, Marine that was a double amputee. He kind of stepped on a landmine and lost his legs, but he really has a great story. So.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of great stories there.
Yeah, powerful story. And I know Rick put it up on Facebook, so folks can go out there and see it and listen to it, share it, but very powerful story.
And in August, who is our speaker?
Gretchen, I want to say Evans.
Yeah, Gretchen Evans.
We met her at one of the events. She came to a lunch, and she's going to be our speaker. So.
She's an Army Command Sergeant Major,
Yes.
and probably one of the most decorated women in the military. She, I think, probably the first woman to lead troops in combat. So she's got some good stories.
Sergeant Major, that's way up there.
Yeah, probably Command Sergeant, whatever the top is, she's there.
Command Sergeant Major, I think.
Two Purple Hearts. So that'll be a great roll call.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, hopefully I'm going to be there.
Well, we're gonna make sure you're there. But thank you so much for being with us today, and we're gonna leave with Don singing God Bless America. So, Billy, you're a great American.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody that's watching, and for being part of this roll call. And here's Don to take us on. Iwo Jima survivor Don Graves singing God Bless America on his 100th birthday.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, why we're born. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, our home, sweet home. Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being a part of Hometown Heroes podcast. Visit our YouTube channel and subscribe today. We look forward to seeing you next week on Hometown Heroes, the voice of heroes, the voice for heroes.